have you all again. CTO, you're really keeping the summer theme going. I'm loving it. Good to see you again. Good to see you, Marty. Good to see you, James. I know there was a lot of travel last week, but it's good to be all back on home soil, I guess. We are starting the week with a little bit of weakness in Bitcoin, but everything's still looking okay in my eyes. How are you feeling about everything? Just quickly, James.
My two big worries are things like the Japanese market falling last night and the escalations in the Middle East. I think that's putting a bit of a dampener on so-called risk assets, but I think things are a lot worse than they appear out there, and nobody's really paying attention to it. But as you said as well, maybe it's other factors too. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on. There's disappointment, there's anxiety, there is month end. Over to you.
What about you, Marty? How are you doing?
I'm good. As far as the market's concerned, I mean, I called it last week that we had a very weak pullback. During the week, I knew that wasn't going to do it, and we would pull back again. It actually didn't pull back as deep as I thought, although it did hit my liquidation level number exactly. If anyone had placed that trade, well done. 63,240 was my number. It hit 63,232 or something. So we came down exactly on the liquidation levels. Nice little flush. I'm bullish. I'm so bullish. I haven't veered from being extremely bullish. I think we're going up.
I think if you've been watching this show week in, week out for the last few months, I think you realize they're all super bullish. Maybe we'll start with you though, CTO, because we'll go and maybe have an immediate look at the Bitcoin chart, because it might be an interesting thing to look at. We did have one of the strongest weeks for Bitcoin inflows last week. I think it was the strongest day in over 4 months on Friday, with over 400 million of inflows. And I think it was the strongest week for over 2 months. Across crypto products, we saw around 1.2 billion of inflows into the ETFs. How are the charts looking, particularly for Bitcoin to start?
Yeah, it's very interesting. So we identified this higher low, as everyone probably remember, been watching the show, and it really was a noteworthy event, and we got a lot of strength since then. Then actually a couple of days ago we had another very interesting point, and that was that we got the breakout above this level. We can argue if that was a higher high or if we have to cross this level. Probably have to cross this level, but if we ignore the wicks here, this was actually a double bottom. So it was a very strong price action we had up until basically day before yesterday. Now we are seeing a bit of retracement, a little bit below this neckline. And I was speculating why here a little bit just before we went on the show. And just now I actually noticed that the gold chart, like the old gold, the boomer gold chart, looks exactly the same. I thought maybe if it could be something with FTX disappointment, no distribution, but I changed my mind now that I see that the gold chart looks exactly the same. So it must be something, a macro environment or worries of some kind, rather than something related to the Bitcoin price action as such, because too much a coincidence, otherwise the gold looks the same. But overall, this looks very good. We really had some of the strongest price action and bullish signals that we've had in a very long time, that suddenly we start getting bullish chart patterns. We're converting resistance into support, making higher lows and so on. So it looks great.
Maybe we'll touch upon why it was looking so good, because we did have a actually, we'll go into the agenda. That's a good place to start, actually. Yeah. So Bitcoin, we're kind of already got into. Before we go into why we had that aggressive move, which was China, I think was the most important thing, or at least the most looked at thing over the last week. FTX was up there too. A lot of different debate about what's going to be happening there over the next few months across the different range of creditors. Sui versus Sol, we've mentioned this a few times on the show. Both had strong weeks. We'll see where they're looking, particularly against the charts. PayPal allowing businesses to hold crypto. 10 billion of stablecoins minted in September, and we have Revolut and Robinhood entering that market, it looks like. Kamala saying some positive comments around crypto in a speech midweek, but there have been more headlines about the fact that Silvergate may have been an engineered default by the Biden administration, particularly Warren. Meme coins have come back incredibly aggressively. Part of the strength of Solana, again, has been the strength in a bunch of different meme coins. You had over or around 10 billion of value added to the top meme coins over the last couple of weeks. Moonshot has been a big part of that. That's the new cryptos killer app that people have been talking about. And then finally, we'll talk about Polymarket, which has been soaring up the app charts. Okay, so maybe we will now get into what's been driving. Or James, do you want to touch on
just to touch on money flows? We had the 9th best day ever for the ETFs last Friday, which was huge, and that drove a lot. And all of the action, literally, all of the action happened last week for the whole month of September. 17,000 Bitcoin were absorbed. So we're beginning to see that trickle through into the Bitcoin price. And I'm hoping this is a kind of a reaccumulation phase number 3. We had a bit of a false start about over a month ago, the end of August, and it failed. But hopefully people will start going risk on right now, especially with the rates coming down. People will be chasing alpha. And there was big news as well out of JP Morgan warning there are people with $10 million plus in deposits. They're about to lose 50 bips on their deposits. So instead of getting, I think they pay them out about 2%, even though they get 5% themselves. But that's going to be cut down to 1.5%. And anybody who has that type of money understands debasement. So that's where we are with the money flow.
Yeah, it's a good point. I actually think that U.S. Treasury funds, I think saw one of the biggest outflows of the year last week. I think it was, the biggest U.S. Treasury saw the biggest outflow of the year last week. So money is most probably going to start moving out of yielding assets as rates come down, and ideally into more risky stuff, of which crypto is one. The big story, though, I think last week, at least from the macro agenda, was what happened in China, which kind of was the story breaking earlier in the week, and then just became more and more crazy, I think, as the week went on. So even today, they've announced measures to boost the housing market over there. Last week, they announced 140, I think, billion could be injected into the banks. Previously, they'd announced that you could borrow to buy stocks from central bank. They are trying to pump liquidity fairly aggressively, it feels like. And now we're into this this environment where money supply looks like it's going to go up very, very high. You had Jamath talking about it earlier in the week. Huge stimulus plan coming out of China. This is kind of 2008 levels of stimulus plan. And on the back of that, you saw China stocks up 6% again today. That was up 18% in the last 5 days. The Beijing 50 posts a record high intraday move. Now, part of this was because there was a huge short base in a bunch of Chinese equities and Chinese assets. So you've seen this huge short squeeze, which has pushed markets up. But in general, this will mean that M2 goes up. And as we know, global M2 has a very, very high correlation, about an 80% correlation with Bitcoin. So looking like a good situation here, for at least for Bitcoin. Marty, what did you make of all these headlines?
I mean, yes, we've been chasing global liquidity. I mean, we called the turn on August, just before August. And we all know Bitcoin and the global market, especially risk-on assets, will follow global liquidity. So we knew this was coming. I think it's just one day after the other. We've got more and more jurisdictions starting to announce easing. Obviously, they do it very tentatively and slowly. But China is the first to go. I think the most important thing, though, is that they lowered their 7-day reverse repo rate and the required ratio for capital, which is less demand for US dollars. Interesting. People don't know that. But so you need less US dollars to loan money in China than you did before. Things like that. China is easing and easing fast. And obviously there's speculation, but personally, in my opinion, China will unban crypto. It's just a matter of time. And when they do that, I think you're going to have an incredible surge. So that's definitely on the cards for the next, I'd say, month. We should look out for that.
Yeah, there was a comment by a vice premier, wasn't there, an ex-vice premier over the weekend saying we should rethink crypto.
Absolutely. That's usually the way China signals, right there.
Yeah. So let's maybe look at these charts.
This one is Alibaba. And I was looking at Chinese stocks a little bit early. It was February of this year. And I was trying to I looked at Baidu and Baba and a bunch of others. And this one came out to be the best because they've got so many plays that are kind of AI adjacent. And it was like $60. And now that has doubled. But all the spike happened over the last couple of weeks. So sometimes you got to lay a trap and then sit and wait. I know maybe
Look at
CTO,
that.
you got a couple of things. That's what money flow does. That's what liquidity does, ladies and gentlemen.
Here we go. 850. Look at that.
That is a
Look
crazy.
at the volume there at the bottom. It's
Let me get a
crazy, isn't
screenshot
it?
of that.
Look
Wait,
down here. That looks like any
I got it.
meme coin, but that's the China
Good
A50
Lord.
index. And of course, it hasn't gone up to any crazy levels. It's still a lot lower than it's been a couple of years ago. But look at that volume. That's some serious volume pumped into the market.
Yeah.
So,
And you might think it will retrench any of these days, but what we're really seeing is successive announcements. Like even today, they basically announced they were going to get rid of some of the restrictions on ownership of property in some of the major cities, which means the whole property sector just absolutely mooned even today. So we've just pushed up again another, I think, 6 to 8% on the various different main stock exchanges in China. So big move. You had David Tepper, who's a very, very well-known hedge fund manager of Appaloosa last week, go on, I think it was CNBC or Bloomberg, and say, buy everything in China. And the last time I think he said that was when Q was announced in 2010. So big move here, some big money flows coming in from, I would say, smart money into China. And the other thing is there's been huge, this has been a very, very popular trade. So after the Magnificent Seven, the most crowded trade was short China, and namely China equities. So you had a lot of people burnt on the back of this. You've seen some smart people move in as well. I think Michael Burry from the Big Short, he actually went in and started buying China stocks a few weeks ago, which I thought was an interesting move. That kind of made me look at it, but it does seem like this has burnt a lot of different people on the short side of this move. Anyway,
here was last Monday, when you guys talked about the China liquidity. That was here, so you can take some credit here.
Yeah, and by the way, people always talk about Warren Buffett being kind of God, but he sold his BYD, and BYD has gone to the moon as well, like everything else over the last year. So it's you just follow the money, as we always say here on this channel. It's that simple. But there is another wild card here, Mando, as well. The Chinese government has allowed 2% interest to be able to buy securities on margin.
Right.
That is huge. So now people can try and fill their hole from the loss they made on real estate and go YOLO into the stock market. And they have a lot of money.
Yeah. So they're allowing easier borrowing conditions, and they're allowing at a cheaper rate. So basically, China's allowing you to borrow to buy stocks at the moment at a very, very cheap rate. I think this could continue to go high. I think today, obviously, it's looking quite overbought in short-term indicators. Maybe we see a bit of a retracement, but this does feel like it could bounce back with the amount of money they're going to throw at it. I don't think
I want to say one more thing on that too, though. I don't think it's overbought, because when I was going into Alibaba, basically the enterprise value was same as the assets they had in cash on the balance sheet. There was no intrinsic value whatsoever, and they were minting money. Yeah, growth had slowed in terms of earnings growth, but they were still making a ton of money. So there's still a lot of opportunity, I believe, in the Chinese market. I think Baba's going to $160.
Yeah, I think that's an Asian thing in general, right? A lot of you have that conglomerate discount, and a lot of these, like SoftBank has the same thing. Like if you look at some of the parts, it's worth way less than what the actual company is worth. I think it's quite prevalent because of the amount of conglomerates in Asia. So if you pick the right one, and also if they start to divest some of their assets, like SoftBank did, well, SoftBank did a range of different things, but you can get some good big winners there as well. So that was maybe the biggest story of the week that we start to come through. And then the second one, which kind of related to crypto, was more to do with FTX, which we've kind of picked up on a few different times, but there was a lot of different headlines coming out kind of over the last 48 hours, 72 hours, that this might be a little bit sooner than expected, that they've been started to see some repayments already, and that got people very, very bullish. Do you maybe want to talk about this, Marty? Because I know you were all over this, but it now looks like it's going to be a little bit more delayed, but there have been some repayments already.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing to preface is that, like I said earlier, there's two types of interested people here. There's the FTX creditors themselves, people that are owed money, that are very anxious to get repaid, obviously. They've been waiting a long time, and they're going to get cash. It's all in cash. But understand that they want the prices to be lower if they want to buy crypto. So there is a little bit of FUD coming out from the FTX creditors themselves to try and keep the prices down. And then there's the other hand is traders like us who are looking to, front run this event. And the important thing to me, all I really care about is that it's been approved. October 7th will be the final date. And right now there's a low single-digit probability of it not being approved, from roughly 15 to 20% a month ago. So it looks like it's going to get approved on the 7th. So you want to front run that. And I think that's what traders are going to do. Obviously, people getting the cash don't want that, and so they're going to fight it a little bit. So October 7th, they will pretty much approve it. I'd say at about a 5% chance they don't, so 95% chance. The rough numbers won't be the full 16. There was 2% off the top for high priority tax payments and government creditors. But the remaining, I believe, 12.5 billion will be returned to creditors in cash. And, you can look around crypto Twitter. The estimates are, some people think 50% of them will re-enter crypto. Some believe it's higher, some believe it's lower. But as a trader, it's an extremely bullish event, and you want to front run it. Do not wait till October 7th, because on October 7th, the price will have pumped already. Okay, and that is the point that I want to make to people. As a trader, you want to front run events. You don't want to wait for the event. If you wait for the event, you are late. Okay, October 7th will be an approval of $12 billion, of which $6 billion may come back into crypto. And so it's a front run event. Then there is an omnibus on the 22nd. Omnibus is a court hearing which can address several things at once. And one of the things is potential disputes. So if anybody wants to have a dispute over the whole process, they can try on October 22nd, but there's extremely low probability of that actually having any effect. And then payments should start almost immediately. People say 30 to 60 days, but if you read the fine print in Kroll's thing, it can happen the day after. They can start to pay. There we go.
Okay, and devil's advocate to that, there's a couple of things. First of all, don't click on any scam emails from FTX, because most of it's a scam. Do not connect your wallet to anything. If you ever want to try, connect a fake wallet with nothing in it. Remember that. But this is from Mr. Purple. I don't know if you know Mr. Purple Marty Party, but he seems to be also an authority on FTX. And he talked about the October 7th he mentioned, October 31st, debtor estimated effective date. And then within 60 days after that, there will be distribution. So he's thinking December timeframe for money to go out, maybe even January next year. And in terms of the money, FTX fund estimates, this is super interesting. So you have all the assets. Again, it's mostly cash, some other VC book monetizations, etc. But the key thing here is this, the entitlement class of nearly 8 billion, basically half. This is apparently all the big speculators, all the hedge funds, not the retail investors. The hedge funds, etc., had half of the bag. Do you agree with any of this?
Yeah, this is great. He's got great work, but this is exactly what I'm talking about. This entitlement class want prices lower before they get paid. Okay, so just beware of FUD.
Hang on. So, what are we seeing here? We're seeing that the recovery is over 100%, 100% or more.
118.
So everyone.
Yeah, that would be normal. There is so normally in a bankruptcy, creditors are kind of made whole, and then you would move on to equity claims. That being said, because of the losses, particularly in crypto, for a lot of these retail holders, a lot of them are getting back over 100%. In that waterfall scenario, it does look like some of the preferred equity holders of some of the subdivisions of FTX are getting repaid. 230 million, and there was some FUD around that over the last 24 hours. The equity holders who owned FTX are getting some money back here. They're getting back 230 million. And although this might look like, your customers are getting back, 177%, 120%, they're down massively. These are the prices of when Solana was like 15, 20. Bitcoin was trading at 20 in the 20s as well. So they are down a long, long way from if they kept that crypto. I think they're probably getting 20 to 30%, maybe even less for if you had Solana. So not a great scenario here. I think there could be some questions about whether those preferred equity holders should be repaid, even in this scenario. So I don't know. I don't know why. I know you said you looked at Grok for it. I would say that if a bankruptcy proceeding this complicated, I would still be unsurprised if you saw questions about it. Sometimes you get like competing claims towards the end, or maybe there'll be questions about why this person's getting paid 177% versus the 120%. That also seems like quite a big difference between those two. So I don't know. I'm just saying that this doesn't seem like the most simple of Chapter 11s that I've ever seen.
The interesting number is that 13 billion is exactly the market cap of Cardano.
I hadn't do that.
Which is a miracle.
Maybe
that's
that's
a lot of money, guys. 13 billion goes a long way when you look at something like, Polkadot 6.8, Sui now at 4.7. It's a lot of money. It can influence the market tremendously.
So maybe we should talk about what's going on today a little bit, because we had touched upon the idea that back and forth about FTX had maybe caused a bit of a sell-off today, because it was a bit of bullishness around it over the weekend, which seemingly has been kind of poured some water on today. You mentioned a couple of things as we went live, James. Is there anything you're kind of putting as the main reason why we sold off today?
Yeah, I'm worried. Well, Japanese market fell 5% last night, and everybody was looking at the Middle East escalations over the weekend and late last week. That is a serious point of concern. And everybody's getting involved. I mean, they hit the Houthis last night. They're hitting everybody. And I know there are American troops on the ground, which is, I have no idea why. And then at the same time, the Biden administration, we had a huge hurricane in the United States, and they're not getting any money, but Ukraine is. So it's just weird stuff happening. It's just like as if everybody wants war over anything else, over hospitals or schools. And maybe I'm just old fashioned. I believe in that stuff. But anyway, I don't know. I'm more worried about that. And I think the All In Pod guys, they had a 15-minute deliberation about how we are tiptoeing into World War III, and nobody seems to give a shit. And that is a massive concern, and that will hit risk markets. That's also my concern too.
Yeah, I think there were some headlines just as we went live that there may be a small Israel's planning a small limited ground operation in Lebanon. So who knows? There's definitely been some escalation there. Japan, I think they've got a new PM. New PM took power of the main leadership party in Japan, and he's been pushing for higher rates. So what you actually saw is people assuming that the yen's going to go higher. So I think stocks puked on the back of that, which again is maybe the unwind of the yen carry trade that we've spoken about a few different times. Like that could cause some pain, but I don't know. I didn't really know what caused today's sell-off. I just thought it was month end. Month end, you always see this sort of stuff. People pushing around markets where there's large amount of options in them, and we could see Bitcoin go down to like 63K and then back up to 65K just because people with massive options positions want to push it around. Anything you picked up on, Marty, that you were particularly worried about this week that you could cause like a more of a left turn?
No, I mean, the only interesting thing, once again, you know me, I don't really believe in narrative changing price in crypto. I think price makes narrative. I knew there would be a bigger pullback, and the liquidation levels, I mean, you can see it behind me, that I had from 2 days ago had 63,240. 63,200, then revised to 63,250 on the downside, and I believe it hit 63,240. So it was just a regular old Binance flush for me. You have to flush, and the same for gold. Remember, gold has up to 2,000x leverage, so they have to flush late longs, and that's what these pullbacks are. And they did a really good job. If you look at liquidation levels today, Bitcoin is very clean below us, which is really good news. So to me, that was a great flush. I entered at the bottom. As usual, you put your limit longs on my low numbers, and very, very good trades. And now I think we go for that LPS and possibly the SOS, which is 71,500. There we should expect a pretty tragic pullback. That'll be the big final shakeout, probably 71,500 pullback to 60, maybe back to here, which would be, around a 5,000, even more pullback. And then I think that'll be the V-shaped recovery, and we'll pass all-time high. That's my thought.
Yeah.
And one tiny little point we skipped as well, but we have a positive September, which is very rare for Bitcoin. And some people are calling it the best September ever, but in 2012 we had a 15% September. Yeah, so it's good.
Yeah, very good September. We were a little bit worried about it. October is traditionally a bullish month. I think I had the idea that we probably would be dancing around all-time high when we go to the election and then probably push on from there. I kind of agree with what you just said, Marty, that we'll probably go up towards 70K-ish and then bounce around there for a little bit and then maybe break out after the election. Anything on these macro charts, CTO, that you thought was interesting? Yields, dollar, maybe even stocks?
Yeah, a few things. So the biggest thing in the macro chart to me was really this yield breakdown, which happened long ago now, so we're just repeating it. But it hasn't bounced back. It is a solid breakdown, and that yield breakdown means that the market thinks that the yields will drop faster than they thought earlier. So that is really the big thing to me. If we look at the other assets, there's a few interesting observations. One is that trading view is really slow, so a lot of people are using it right now. But the gold breakout, it just isn't stopping. So I know a lot of people feel like the competition with gold, but I feel it's the exact opposite. I think the narrative around hard assets in comparison to like fiat system, gold is showing right here that narrative holds very much true in 2024. So this is like a generational breakout and it's not backing up. I think this is good for digital gold. I think it strengthens the narrative. Then if you look at the US dollar, we have another interesting thing. We have kind of a breakdown there as well. So we did have it once before, that time it reverted. But there is a breakdown in the fiat US dollar value. Of course, I know that this is like compared to other currencies. So you're comparing one garbage to another garbage. But still, DXY going lower tends to be positive for speculative assets. So this is also, and the breakdown here is noteworthy. We haven't had those levels for quite some time, except a very brief time. Then, I mean, stocks are still very strong. Stocks had this strong breakout was it 2 weeks ago? And it's not backing up. It's still holding that breakout. Very solid. So looking at all the macro here, we're looking at yields, looking at DXY, looking at stocks, looking at gold. It's all favorable. It's all favorable for Bitcoin. And then, of course, we had a big pump in Bitcoin, but we haven't had like a big breakout yet. So that is still ahead, hopefully. We haven't made higher highs. We haven't broken through the horizontal resistance on maybe 71,000 yet. So that is still ahead. But looking at the macro environment, it's all favorable. That's all I can see. And I think that, Mando, you said it there, but I think you probably nailed it. It's maybe the options expiry, the quarter expiry that's manipulating price. I didn't think of that actually, but I think you're right.
Yep, that's a very good point.
Yeah.
Also, the BlackRock, I think the BlackRock IBIT options approval stimulated the inflows a lot. I think that's a big part of it. That's huge news.
That'll be huge for volumes. Yep. The ETF volumes, I think, will pick up on the back of that just because of the amount of degenning that you can do. But it does look like we're set up for a little bit of October, they're calling it. Moonvember or October. Feels like either one.
Isn't it true, though, to do a put option that the issuers need to own the stock, so they need to get inventory as well? Things like that, in order to short a stock, you got to own the stock. So
you can do naked.
I think a naked short.
Places you can do naked shorts. Sometimes they put in restrictions in certain geographies. They put in restrictions, but I don't think in the US you can do naked shorts in most of those. But it was interesting. A lot of people did point to what you guys were picking up on about the whole Coinbase custody with BlackRock. That as soon as that got resolved and BlackRock asked for, what was it, same day
12 hour.
At that exact moment, Bitcoin started rallying. So maybe there were some games going on there between Coinbase and BlackRock around that.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll move on.
I forecast, by the way, BlackRock will move custody to Melon away from Coinbase.
Wow, that would be quite a kick in the teeth, I think. But yeah, could easily happen. BlackRock and Mellon are both New York based. All right, so we'll move on to the other big trades that we've been speaking about for the last few weeks. So SUI again came back and had a strong week. I know it's been a trade of yours, Marty. I saw, James, that you got kind of into the trade a little bit even this week. But we saw that SUI TVL reached a record 1 billion. Sentiment and mindshare are increasing. And again, you saw the same top performers that were kind of from a month ago were leading the charge again. Tau has been another big mover in the AI space. It's kind of nearing all-time highs there, and SUI's been the other one. Anything new you saw? I know you've been a week since as well. Breakpoint, James, and you did that big side-by-side between SUI and Sol. Is there anything that you've kind of come to like about SUI more? Anything that you saw this week from either of them that you kind of liked, but they both had good weeks?
Yeah, super quick recap. I think, I always believe in having a little position as kind of a mini hedge. I can blast through a couple of quick things here. First of all, I did a detailed face-off comparison over 26 detailed metrics. This is basically how it looks like in terms of how the chains compare across everything: TVL, DEX volume, yada, yada, even Twitter followers. It's clear Solana's way ahead. This is in a log chart version, so you can see exactly where SUI wins versus Pink. The real thing for me that always has me concerned is kind of tokenomics. The emissions over the next 12 months is high, 33% versus 5% for Sol. And that is
actually 150 million, I think, unlock with this week for SUI.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a bit of a concern because that can lead to a little bit of sell pressure. This is kind of the main thing, though, is the relative market cap dominance. So if you look at a fully diluted market cap, which is always the best way to analyze a crypto, even though it's going to take a long time for both to be fully diluted, the delta here is 4.2x. That is, Solana has 4.2x the FDMC of as a percentage of ETH market cap, because we're comparing everything ETH to ETH, and the ETH is kind of like that sinking ship. I made a little graphic yesterday of a sinking ship full of L2 band-aids, which you can get more into as well. But that's kind of how I see it. Now, in full disclosure, I did get into a position because why not? I do believe it has legs. I do believe it can go up some more. And I tried to calculate, based on scores and valuations, like you'd value an enterprise, how many points does each get, and then back into how much they are worth each. And I said, you know what? It's worth a flutter. Is it better than Solana? No, not yet. But is it worth having a position? Yeah. And everybody is kind of getting into it. And people that miss Solana are looking to buy the next Solana, which they think is SUI. But the thing is, and this is the most important point for investors. So some people still have very blind hope. I don't want to be like a bucket of cold water, as I said the other day, but will SUI be life-changing? The answer is no, because it started at a pretty high market cap. And that's the most important thing. A lot of people believe, I'm going to make 100x in SUI. No, you won't. And that's just the reality. So
yeah, it's a nearly $20 billion market cap, although it's been a great trade.
Yeah.
Marty,
I tweeted about it yesterday. It's been a massive roller coaster. I mean, it launched at 130, went up to 220, fell down to 50 cents, back up to $1.80. I mean, it is seatbelts on, please. Marty, tell us what you think.
Yeah, I mean, the real trade was obviously to take my signal at 50 cents, but you would have been 3x up now. But anyway, I think that SUI will be a top 10 layer one. Everyone is in agreement of that.
Yep.
We had Alonso de Gortari. He's the chief economist. You guys need to be familiar now. There's a new moniker in crypto. It's called chief economist. He's the chief economist at Mr. Labs. I had him on the space and went over their Deep Book project, which is really fascinating. It's much like, you remember Serum on Solana? So a on-chain order book. So SUI are doing all the pieces along the same similar roadmap to Solana, and taking advantage of their parallel execution and their speed, etc., and offering now even a new feature, which is Deep Book. So if anyone's not familiar with these things, what that allows you to do is for all of the DEXs and all the traders to make use of one centralized on-chain high-speed order book for extreme fast matching and extreme liquidity. So it's like a liquidity pool that you can participate in as a member of the public. And so we spoke at length about SUI. And like I've been telling in my tweets, the future, there's a second internet on the horizon. Okay. We all know the current internet, we call it Web 2 or Web 1, where, you know, all these large corporations silo user data. They all want you to log in and they want to hold your data and own the journey. And we have to log in. We have to keep spreadsheets of passwords. That's changing. Okay. The new internet, we will be in charge of our data. The corporations will have to ask us for permission to use our data. So it's called Internet 2 and involves lots of changes. But the biggest change is massive global single state messaging, cloud version 2. And there are only 2 technologies right now in blockchain that can do this, and that's Solana and SUI. And the more I talk to SUI, the more I realize that. So if you ask me, that's the investment thesis. Which blockchains can technically pursue Internet 2 and which can't? And these are the only 2 that can. Now, Solana is 4 or 5 years old, so it's got a head start in adoption. It also has a head start in business, commercial relationships, etc. So right now, most of my allocation is on Solana, but my allocation into SUI is growing. I'm up to, I believe, 80-20 between the 2. So, and the more I talk to them, the more bullish I get. And so that's the story to me. Do you have to own one or the other? I'm not an all-in guy. I don't see the point of it. It's a fantastic hedge. In fact, when SUI pumps and Solana hangs with Bitcoin, you gain that appreciation. And then when Solana pumps with Bitcoin, you gain that appreciation. It's a great hedge. So I always tell people, own both. Own an allocation to both. There's no reason to have one or the other. I've never understood that. Anyway, that's my feeling. I think SUI is making the steps and doing the things and hiring the people, very smart people, to make, to journey to Internet 2 and leave everyone behind. It's going to be Solana and SUI and everyone else to be left behind, scratching their heads.
That's the funniest thing is imagine being an old chain with 0 adoption and 0 dApps. They are beyond dead this stage. Called them dead years ago, but now I can say with 99.99% certainty, they are toast. And people are still clinging on these dreams.
Tell us about Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah, exactly. They're held captive by the chains and they refuse to sell. But this is from Mert. Sol is so good as an L1 that people are falsely comparing it against entire systems composed of L1s, L2s, and $500 million scaling solutions combined, LMAO. And this is without Fire Dancer and 3 years of tech debt. So when you look at how things work typically in the world, it's always winner take most. There aren't 10 winners. There's one. All right. Whether you look at Google or Amazon or Apple, iPhone or whatever else, winner take most. So everybody just remember that too. And your allocation 80-20 is smart, Marty.
I've been using the analogy, guys. Amanda, before we go on, one more, and for the audience, this is the analogy that's working well in my community. Blockchain networks are like cable networks, okay? HBO, Showtime, Netflix, CNN, ESPN, okay? They all have different brands, different speeds, different shows, different themes. Some people like another. There's one for everyone. But HBO is the king. Netflix is a king. There's going to be winners. That's how it's going to work with networks. There's going to be apps on all the chains. Some apps will be on every one of them. Some assets will be on every one of them. Some will be specific to one network. It's the same analogy. That's what's playing out. So if you think about it like that, pick the winning ones. Okay, the winning ones have the best shows, the fastest UI, the best corporate relationships, and have the highest price tag because they're that desirable. Think of it like that. Carry on.
Can you blow that up a bit, Manda, so people can see?
Can you see? Well, maybe I'll just write it. But yeah, some chains that I like this is from again from an objective POV status. He says Solana, Bitcoin, Celestia, which is TIA, Polygon and Arbitrum, which are both L2s. I thought that was strange. SUI, which we've spoken about a lot. NIA, which is another L1, Zcash, and Monero, which are some of the privacy chains, which not many people even list these days. But thought it was an interesting list from it kind of goes back to what you guys are both saying. You should have interest in lots of different things. Don't get tied to one narrative. Have interest in lots of different things. There's lots of different tech happening in this space. In fact, you were even talking today about what's been going on with Thorchain, right? ThorSwap now looks like it's solved the Bitcoin to Solana bridge stuff that we've been speaking about in the past, right? Like, so stuff is happening every single day.
We may want to mention it for the audience. There's a new narrative called multi-chain. You should become familiar with it. Multi-chain is projects that are on all chains. They bring chains together, not just bridging. Remember, bridging was phase one. Bridging is where you make a derivative on a chain by simply backing it with a wallet on another chain. That's the old way of doing it. It's extremely risky. It involves humans. The new multi-chain is permissionless computational systems architected to bridge chains. So you don't really care where the asset is. You just deal with the asset, and behind the scenes, it's on some chain, and the computer system is controlling that. And Thor has been on the forefront of that. That's Rune is their token. Thorchain really were on the forefront of doing this. And they did it with the Amazon approach, where they create warehouses. So they create warehouses of native tokens on each network, so you can do swaps without having to actually cross over the network. It's really clever. Basically, Thor is the Amazon of crypto. And then we have Zeus, which is doing it a slightly different way, where they engineer using the Solana network validator. They customize it to make what they call a layer 1.5. So the actual validator and all the security of Solana holds the pegged one-to-one between the two native tokens. It's really interesting stuff, but multi-chain is the new narrative.
CTO, do you maybe want to bring up the charts for both of those? I think it'd be interesting to see how Sui and Sol are looking at the moment. And Rune, actually. Yeah, Rune actually looks like it could be a bit of a sender.
Yeah, I can just feel that these guys deserve so much respect. They've been working on this here. This is in 2019, guys. I was following this project over here, and so much work over so many years. And I'm just happy to see that, you know, perseverance pays off, that they're able to add stuff like Solana now. What is it, 5 years later? And I really wish these guys all success, because they worked hard for 5 years here, basically, when everyone else is just trying to pump their token. I feel that a native layer one, native to native swap from, for example, Bitcoin to Solana is huge. Fully decentralized, fantastic technology, very complicated, but it worked.
Yeah, and CTO, I must say, you're dead right. There are some old chains that are really working really hard, and they're doing incredible things. Aave is another one too. They stick to their knitting, and they continue to be successful. Maybe pull up an Aave chart as well. It's kind of like Rune, really coming back.
Exactly. Let's see where I saved that one. Yeah, absolutely. So these guys also, they have been on it since, what is it, 2017? Yeah. It's a lot of perseverance. And yeah, they're turning around again here. And yeah, I feel so too. It's just applauding perseverance. What did we say? We talked about Sui. So, I mean, it was a great call by Marty a couple of weeks ago when we were on the show, and we talked about it here actually when we had this breakout from this resistance that turned into support, and it's been fantastic price action on both the Sui to BTC and Sui to USD chart. And what else did we mention? We mentioned you mentioned Tau has also been a great price action. Zeus, who is Marty, you have great insights there. First, I felt that it's kind of similar to Rune, but I think you educated me that they're trying to solve a slightly different problem. They're also having some momentum here, and let's see if they can move forward there. Do you want to comment on that?
I think he did.
Yeah, with regard to Zeus, it's a dual prong attack, right? They're building the code, and they've now gone live. So now they're accepting actual native Bitcoin, and I believe they have 1,500 Bitcoin already locked up into their protocol. So their price will be much along the lines of TVL. So the more Bitcoin that's locked up, the price should increase. And I'm speaking to Justin this week, maybe even tomorrow, we'll see, and I'll get more information. So next week, I'll fill you in with the latest and greatest on Zeus. We were supposed to speak
ask him
on
how
Friday,
it kind of compares with Rune, how different, how they position
very
themselves.
different approach. Very different approach. Like I said, Rune. First of all, Rune Thought Chain is a Cosmos SDK chain. It uses Tendermint consensus and everything from Cosmos. It's built on top of the Cosmos SDK. Thought Chain is a fantastic project. I agree. I used to trade it a lot in the beginning. I love the Thought team. But they do the Amazon approach where they create, buckets or warehouses of native tokens on each network, so that if you want to move from Ethereum to Solana, Bitcoin, just as an example, you don't need to actually do the transfer because there's Bitcoin on both networks. Does that make sense? So the Amazon solution. Zeus is a totally different solution. That's where they're actually creating Solana validators that talk to the Bitcoin network layer and keep a pegged one-to-one relationship between a native wallet on Bitcoin and a native wallet on Solana at the code level. It's basically integrating Bitcoin and Solana into a single validator, if that makes sense. Like I say, this is like way above anything we've ever heard of. This is like a dream. And that's what they're building. So it's extremely game-changing for multi-chain once it goes live. And I'll have more information next week in the show about what other chains they're working on. I know they're working on Dogecoin, Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, all the proof of works. Then they're going to jump to the big E. And that's going to be very fascinating when they create a single Solana to Ethereum one-to-one peg bridge. I think that's going to be like game-changing because you'll be able to use Solana with your native Ethereum without ever losing custody of it. So it's a very, very big project, Zeus. It's backed by both Munib and Anatoly. So the Solana founder and the Stacks founder are angel investors. And I think it's probably going to change the game. But it's not easy. So we should expect, a lot of work and a lot of slow iterative releases. And I like it. Like Solana, they actually iterate pretty fast. So they're putting out a lot of things. You can go and look at their latest dashboards and see live Bitcoin being, put into the pools. It's pretty cool. But totally different from Thought Chain. The ultimate goal is the same, but the way they're doing it is very different.
Maybe we'll move on to adoption here. There's a few different stories about adoption which were quite big, I think, during the week. The first one was PayPal. So we've spoken about PayPal quite a few times, and then move into crypto. We saw this week that they are allowing businesses in the US to hold Bitcoin and crypto in external wallets. So you will be able to hold crypto in your PayPal business wallet. I thought this was quite a big thing. You also saw Robinhood and Revolut both talking about potentially coming in doing a stablecoin. This article was a little bit took down PayPal's PYUSD, but I still think that's been a success, if I'm honest. But yes, it's definitely going to get more competitive in the stablecoin space. In the month of September, we saw 10 billion of inflows into stablecoins. The stablecoin market cap up by about 10 billion just in September. I think we're around 160 billion right now. So a big move in stablecoins, but three big pieces of adoption there. What did you think of the PayPal news, James?
Yeah, I think it's super interesting to help enterprises not only hodl Bitcoin, but to receive payments in crypto or Bitcoin and to send Bitcoin and crypto as remittances to customers, refunds, etc. I think it's huge. One of the big things that's kind of missing in the space is this ability for the enterprise to get much more access. And despite PayPal being a little bit of a woke bucket of turd, it is still very widely adopted. And there's no denying that. It has users all over the world. And adding this crypto will be great for adoption, especially for enterprises, where they, a lot of customers come to places and say, can I pay in crypto? Or can you refund me in crypto? Or can you whatever? Or can you buy my house in London and turn into Bitcoin and then send me the keys or whatever? All of this stuff is what people are desperate to do. So I think it's great for the space.
I think it's huge.
Also,
I really do.
Did you see they introduced PayPal complete payments for Chinese merchants? I think that's even bigger news.
No,
Went right under the radar. Look into PayPal complete payments, a new product that they've now aimed at Chinese merchants, which is another reason I believe China is going to make a change in crypto. So this movement, it's like PayPal's presence in China just went up huge.
Okay, so it's not crypto, but they've allowed it for merchants.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, so it does feel like PayPal might be the dark horse of crypto adoption that we didn't really see coming, but that has now come in, and it's got its own stablecoin. To be honest, to allow, like the onboarding process, most people have a PayPal account. Whether it's dusty and old and you forgot about it, most people have a PayPal account. And even just the idea of saying, hey, I can send it to you on PayPal, crypto, I think that's quite a big deal. And that goes alongside things like what we just said, Revolut, Robinhood, more of, let's say, the new age banks coming into it, or the new age trading firms that are aimed at a younger generation, or generally have a younger generation of people involved in them. It does feel as though crypto, all the major payment rails are moving towards crypto. I thought particularly the PayPal news was bullish.
And one tiny point as well, and I've been waiting for this for at least 2 or 3 years. Google Pay and Apple Pay, they've been kicking around crypto for the longest time. It's only a matter of time before they pull the trigger, and that will completely change adoption too, way more than PayPal.
Yeah. And then we'll move on to politics for a small amount, because it was on spoken about again this week. Obviously, we still have the election next month, but we had Kamala talking about crypto.
I will recommit the nation to global leadership in the sectors that will define the next century. We will invest in biomanufacturing and aerospace, remain dominant in AI and quantum computing, blockchain and other emerging technologies, expand our lead in clean energy.
I think that was it. But she did say that blockchain, for the first time we've heard it, kind of, again, pretty vague, but it was mentioned, and a lot of people in crypto jumped upon that as, right, we could have a strong both side ticket here. There was another story though that came out during the week, which is about Silvergate, which is really blown up. If you just type into Google, a bunch of different mainstream news sources also picked up on this. But inside the Biden admin's plot to destroy Silvergate and debank crypto for good, a lot of different filings here about how the fact that Silvergate, which is one of the first banks to go under, was it in the spring of 2023, which then caused SVB, First Republic, all those sort of issues. And seems like it went down from political pressure from Warren. She seemingly told the Federal Home Loan Bank refused to renew their monthly loan agreement with Silvergate, and that caused 2 losses at Silvergate. There's a lot of questions about this, a lot of different people writing articles about the fact that this was kind of an engineered attack. The choke point 2.0 comments that were made by Nick Carter actually in the space at that time. Did you guys see either of these stories? What did you make of them? I think you're muted, James.
We knew a year ago it was all orchestrated because they were a fungible entity. They had no reason to go down. It was all part of choke point 2.0, and we know who's behind that. Begins with W and others. So it just shows you how corrupt everything is. And I'm hoping one day the world will not be as corrupt, but that may be a silly dream.
Yeah. Although maybe with Kamala we get a better situation. It does feel like she's going to try and turn a leaf, although being mentioned as an industry alongside 5 other industries that they're going to try and protect, I don't think is quite the same level of support that we're seeing potentially from the other side at this point. The election is a month away, or just over a month away. I do think we'll still continue to see volatility around that. It does look like she's slightly ahead at the moment, although it does feel as though this softening of approach is meaning that crypto people are less focused on it. I don't see it as much in the crypto headlines that it was maybe a few months ago, because I think people are starting to think that you could have a relatively positive scenario in both situations. Anyway, just the final bits of the show. I think we were going to talk about what's going on in meme coins, which I know a lot of people don't really speak about on this show, but we saw a massive move in meme coins alongside AI. This has been one of the main reasons what we've seen a resurgence in Solana. DeFi volumes, you actually saw SHIB. SHIB added $3.3 billion of market cap in a day. That's more than a bunch of other meme coins combined. You had, over the course of a week, it was around 10 billion. I think it was 6 billion in just one day across Doge, SHIB, Pepe. All of these meme coins came roaring back. A lot of this has been tied back to a new app in the space called Moonshot, which is kind of like an easier onboarding. It's mainly, I think Solana actually did a shout out advertisement of it today, but that's seen huge downloads from there. But it does feel like meme coins, having had a very, very tough period, are again driving back retail into crypto, and they are the first thing that people buy. It's kind of crazy. I kind of felt like, oh, there's been so much supply from Pump.Fund this year that we wouldn't see it, but this was a huge move. SHIB moving up 40% in a week, basically 30% in a day. It's just crazy how people just return, and meme coins is the first thing they want to gamble on.
Yeah, the fascinating thing is how much money it is. It's saying it's like $5 billion in market cap, $10 billion in these like cats and hippos, and it's amazing. I mean, it's easy to lose track. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money.
Moodang, which was the actual meme about that hippo, about 3 weeks old, went up 300 million.
Even just about a past Avalanche, guys. SHIB is about to pass Avalanche, and then it's Cardano. I mean, this is literally SHIB is on a tear. Yeah. 10.7 billion.
Obviously, super risky bit of the market, but it has been that and AI were the two strongest narratives of the week, alongside the L1s that we speak about every single week. But it does feel like one of the main use cases that people want to gamble on is internet culture. Moodang the meme was ripping at the same time as Moodang the coin. He's had Moodang on Saturday Night Live, and then you have a coin going up to 300 million. So it pays to pay attention to internet culture. And then finally,
regards Moonshot, I mean, if anybody plays meme coins, Dex Screener is the #1 UI. So Dex Screener is where you go look at charts and do your trading for meme coins, and your screening for gainers and new pairs and things. So they saw Pump.Fun and Hop.Fun and all of these things. They were like, hell, let's build our own one, and they made Moonshot. And it's really well integrated into Dex Screener, so you don't need to leave Dex Screener now to trade meme coins and look for new ones. It's a really smart business plan from Dex Screener.
No, Moonshot is actually a different app. Moonshot,
a whole separate thing.
No. Moonshot is its own app. It's integrated with MoonPay for a lot of their onboarding, but it's like a new app. Like a lot of new people who are trading meme coins download Moonshot. It's like super easy UI UX. It's kind of like Robinhood, but for memes, and it's become incredibly popular. It's an app which I think
I've always been a huge fan of MoonPay. You guys, MoonPay has always been working. They've been doing this for a long time. MoonPay just seems to pop up everywhere. I think it's an incredible organization. So if it's about MoonPay, I'm all in. I'll go look at it right after this.
Yeah, thanks. So MoonPay announced that meme coin trading app used Moonshot has broken its single day on ramping record. So this is the app. It kind of looks like that. I think Solana Moonshot.
Oh, I got it. And you can use Apple Pay, Google Pay, PayPal. That's the.
You can use Apple Pay, Google Pay. It's become this like super easy way for people to buy these meme coins. Anything that gets listed on there seemingly does multiples as soon as it gets listed. But yeah, definitely something to pay attention to if you are trading meme coins. And then finally, we'll just talk upon Polymarket, because that's been the other big, breakout app of this cycle. We saw Polymarket hit $500 million of volume in September. Huge volume. All of that's happening on Polygon, which again seems to be kind of crazy. And then you saw the app. Polymarket actually has an app which has hit #2 in, I think this is the US news apps at the moment on the App Store. But again, crazy to see that crypto apps are going as mainstream here. Polymarket is still under kind of the eyes of the CFTC at the moment. They keep on making comments saying they're going to come after them, but they are seemingly curtailed by the Chevron deference that we spoke about a few months ago. They actually got kind of slapped down a month ago trying to go after a similar product in the US. But it does feel like Polymarket into the election next month, I think that 500 million volume number could hit 1 billion, maybe even higher.
I'm working on a scheduled space with Polymarket. I'll let you guys know if you want to. I'll let you know about the date. Talking to Polymarket. Obviously, I'll interview them and get the real questions answered we've always wanted to know.
Yeah,
We'll
it's a serious time now. There was a comment last week that they could be looking to raise, I think, 50 million. They're probably going to do they're probably going to do a coin on the back of it. It does feel as though, and they've got Nate Silver, I think, is an advisor, and a bunch of very, very well-known VCs backing them at the moment. So definitely one of the biggest apps to come out of this cycle.
Absolutely.
Okay, I think that was an hour, gents. So I think we've hit an hour on the head there. I don't know if anyone wanted to touch upon anything, but otherwise, it's been a great week. I think this week, I know you normally do the things to look out for this week, Marty. The main thing I saw was NFPs on Friday. Is there anything else you thought you were looking at over the next week?
This week, let's just run through this week macro. We've got old Jerome Powell talks today.
He does, yeah.
Pretty big speech. Then we got PayPal business thing starts tomorrow, which could be interesting. Then the ISM manufacturing data comes in Tuesday. Jolt's job report Tuesday. Non-farm payroll Wednesday. OPEC's big meeting is on Wednesday. That could be quite interesting macro-wise.
Non-farm is on
US jobless claims Thursday and September jobs report on Friday. So a lot of macro reporting this week, but nothing much in crypto. Crypto's pretty quiet with regards to big things this week.
Yeah, I think
other than getting released.
Yeah, I think the cool thing, we're going into October, which is exciting. September's up 9% for the month. So we're going to get a green candle, and that's going to be a bullish signal. We've had 3 red months so far this year. It's rare. There's only 3 red months in a year, but we're going into October, November, December, which are the strongest months ever. And we got the perpetual bid coming from the ETFs. So I think the Q4 outlook is extremely bullish, especially with global liquidity.
Just in Ohio State Senator introduces a bill to require Ohio to accept Bitcoin.
It's another state.
He's joining Oklahoma, Texas, Wyoming, and there was another one, right? So that's 5 states now, except with bills to accept Bitcoin, to pay taxes at a government level. It's pretty amazing. I put that in Twitter if you want to see.
All right, gents. Well, it's great to see you all again. CTO, I'm still loving the summer vibe that you're bringing. Indian summer from you.
Exactly.
I think we're bullish again. It does feel like October is upon us now for the next month, and we'll see how we do. I do think there'll be some volatility around the election, but that's why we're here, to talk about it every single week. Anyway, you can find Marty, as you can say, on X. He posts a lot. Great account to follow. CTO is on X and on YouTube. Great account to follow. James, obviously, on X and on YouTube. Great follow there. And I am on X, and I have a newsletter, mandaminutes.com.
And final note, we had Rob post in the comments, Mr. 100's back, just bought 200 Bitcoin. I know people say Mr. 100 is a centralized exchange cold wallet, but it could be 5 other things too. So he's back. So he's buying the dip. Somebody's buying the dip before the October. That's positive.
I predict by this time next week in our next show, Sol ETH will be well over 0.6, which it passed on the weekend briefly.
We didn't even touch upon ETH this week, which I think probably says a little bit, right? It's not been a great week, I think. Again, underperformed everything. Maybe we'll touch upon it again next week, but I don't want to keep on going back there.
Thanks, guys.
All right, gents.
Good show.
Week. Thanks a lot.
Thanks all.
Peace out.
Thank you. Take care.